Let's get started. Our first question goes to Mayor Adler. APD has indicated they plan to roll out body cameras for patrol officers in 2017, and the only way to speed up the timeline is for the City Council to make it a priority. Mr. Mayor, are you willing to make body cameras a top priority for APD and expedite the process? And if so, what quarter of 2016 should the public expect APD officers to have body cameras?
I prioritize body cameras for police. I think it's important for our community. I think it's important for all communities. The measure and question of accountability is something that I think our officers welcome and support. And I think it's something that now the technology exists for us to be able to have happen. We have cameras that are tied to cars at this point. Sorry? You can't hear? We have cameras that are tied to traffic stops at this point that have automatic triggers. Car reaches a certain speed, the camera goes on. Officer exits a car, the camera goes on. We need to have that same kind of trigger system with respect to body cameras so that not only do we have them, but they are on when they need to be on. It's important to note that body cameras being used by police officers here in the city of Austin has already begun. There are 20 officers already outfitted with body cameras as we sit here tonight, but it's not the technology that we need. So it comes out as a pilot program because it's what could happen now. It costs $11 million for this city to equip our officers with body cameras that turn on. And I think that's an important expenditure for this city to make. And it's a program that we need to enter into to roll out. And I think that waiting for 2017 is too long. I think we roll them out as soon as we're able to get the cameras in place. And I think that we have the money available on a one-time expenditure budget to be able to start that process from happening. We need to make sure we have the right technology. We need to bring the body cameras out. And I think you can encourage your council members to support that. I will. But I don't think the conversation should stop there. I think that it is also important to recognize that if we're looking for civil rights protection and equality and opportunity in this city, I think it's real important that we hit the economic issues that you were talking about. And that the eastern side of town, the Eastern Crescent, starting from Runberg, west of I-35, and heading east and then south all the way down through Duff Springs, is part of a city that needs attention that has not gotten attention in the past. And I'm really happy to be joining with my fellow council members and co-chairing with Ms. Houston the conversation that is going to plant the flag in the ground. And it begins on September 12th. And it goes from 9 to noon at the Exposition Center. And I would hope that everybody who is here tonight on this issue join with us to begin that conversation and to plant the flag on the broader issues that are going to ultimately drive opportunity and access and equity in this city. I began my legal career in the 1970s as a civil rights lawyer. I was in federal court arguing civil rights cases. I spent 10 years at the state legislature as chief of staff and general counsel in a district from El Paso, fighting for economic engines in communities so that communities could sustain themselves and achieve the potential that those communities had. This mayor role that I am thankful for the community to give to me is but yet another tool. And I am real proud with the council that we have, my colleagues, because I think this is a priority of this council as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How about a hand for the mayor? That's great. We have the mayor saying 2017 is too long. So we should be able to expect them in 2016. So I'll be looking forward to it. So Police Monitor Frasier, you are charged with the responsibility of monitoring the police. However, your most recent annual report is from 2012. Why has the 2013 report been delayed? And what information will we learn in that report?
Well, hopefully this will work. The problem with reports is that it requires all the cases to be finished. We just had the last 2013 case, the Grand Jury Act, at the end of June. End of June, 1st of July. The case was presented to the panel around middle of July, and the recommendation has now been sent to the Chief of Police, which enabled us to be able to finish the report, which is actually sitting on the Chief's desk and the City Manager's desk, and I've informed them that we're going to post it to our website on Thursday. There is a great delay caused by how long it takes cases to get through the grand jury process in this county, and I think that creates all kinds of problems, not only delay in us being able to get out timely information, but it also, I think, leaves open, festering wounds that take way too long. It shouldn't be, like in that case, you know, it was almost a year and a half after the shooting before the case was finally dealt with by the grand jury. As far as what will the public find, I think what the public is going to find is the same sort of data that we've been releasing before, is that it continues to be a situation in this community where what we see is that African Americans are overrepresented in the number of people who file complaints with our office, and that a lot of the complaints, the majority of the complaints filed by all different races, are people that basically are complaining about the way in which officers interact with them. That they feel officers are rude, that officers are often antagonistic, and so I think it calls into question what needs to be done as far as training of officers.
Thank you. Now, this next question goes to Police Chief of Staff Brian Manley. First, if you could, I guess, explain, why the chief isn't here to the audience, and then I'll go ahead and ask the question.
Certainly, and thank you for having us represented, although there is a meeting that is taking place in Washington, D.C., and the Chief of Police flew to Washington, D.C. today with our city manager so that they could be present at that meeting. And so I will do my best to answer your questions tonight. I have other members of our executive team seated up front here as well, so please do not take this as any indication we do not take this seriously. If you look around the room, you'll see that there are many of us here because we not only take it seriously, but we appreciate being a part of the discussion instead of being the subject of the discussion. So thank y'all.
Thank you. So Chief of Staff Manley, possibly no other profession has come under more scrutiny than law enforcement over the last year. What do you say to those people that have lost all faith in law enforcement, and what do you say to those families that have lost loved ones at the hands of law enforcement?
Okay. I'll take the first part of that. What do we say to folks that have lost all faith in law enforcement? I would agree that my profession is under a level of scrutiny that it has not been under in my 25 years, and I don't believe it's been under this level of scrutiny probably since the Civil Rights era. We are having to take a long, hard look at how we police, why we police the way we police, to ensure our legitimacy to the community. So we are very aware of the challenges that we face. And what I would encourage individuals who have either lost some or all faith in police departments is to think about that, yes, we're seeing some really questionable, if not just outright bad incidents broadcast on the nightly news on a weekly or monthly basis. But for every one of those instances you see, realize there were thousands of police responses that day or that week that were exemplary, where officers were heroic in their actions, where they saved people's lives, or where they just provided a basic level of service for people in need. So although we are an imperfect profession, we will continue to be an imperfect profession. Vince, I appreciate your comments earlier about the improvements that we have made over this past year and the 4 goals we set last year, because we believe we have made improvements, but there's still a long way to go. As your mother maybe and wife may think you're the only perfect one, I know there's not a lot of people that think we're perfect either, and we're not. But keep in mind that what we see in this day of instant immediate access through social media to what's occurring not only outside of our city but outside of our state at times, that for every one of those instances there are thousands where things went perfect, where people risked their lives, and where police officers provided great service. What do we say to the family members of those who have lost their lives at the hands of police officers? First and foremost, we say we're sorry. We do not look for that. I can tell you that when we hire officers, they're not looking to join a profession so they can take a life. That's the last thing any officer ever wants to have to experience. And I can tell you, as much of a loss as I know that must be for the families, it impacts the officers as well. And we're not looking for sympathy. I'm just telling you that it impacts these officers profoundly. And so we are sorry when that happens. And we take that to heart. We do our best, as Vince, you pointed out, to approach these situations with the opportunity to de-escalate, to use less lethal force. But the reality is, across this country, there will be lethal force incidents occurring with police departments, and we are committed to do our best to resolve these as peacefully as possible. But at the end of the day, as we say on the scene when we're at these incidents, it is a tragedy. It is a tragedy for the family that lost a loved one, and I will tell you it's a tragedy for us as a department, because that's not what we are looking to do.
Thank you. Attorney Adam Loewy, you have first experience being with families after they have lost loved ones, and you have the expertise of being an attorney. From both a legal and personal perspective, how do we improve the community relationship, and what policy reforms are needed?
Well, thank you, Vincent, for inviting me on this panel. I have the very distinct honor and privilege of representing the parents of Larry Jackson Jr. They are seated in the front row. If they could just raise their hand, get a round of applause and support. And I will tell you that I've done these cases for now 10 years, and I want to believe that things are getting better. But I will tell you that when you look at the facts of the Larry Jackson case, you can take Ferguson, you can take Eric Garner in New York, you can take any of these national cases, and I will submit to you that the worst police shooting in the United States of America occurred about 10 miles away when Charles Kleiner murdered Larry Jackson Jr. And there is a narrative that has been put out by Charles Kleiner's criminal defense team and by some in the city that this was accidental, that this was an accidental shooting. Ladies and gentlemen, this man was tracked down, he was beaten, and while he was on his hands and knees, he had a gun placed to the back of his neck, and a shot was fired. That is no accident. That is murder. And I am so disappointed that there has only been a manslaughter indictment on these facts. The indictment is wrong, but of course we are grateful that at least there was an indictment. There will be, God willing, a criminal trial for this officer who killed Larry. And the question is for this community, when this trial occurs, when the eyes of the nation are on this city, will there be any elected leaders who will stand before the cameras and say that what happened to Larry Jackson Jr. is not what this city stands for? That what happened to Larry is unacceptable? Because I will tell you, the prior city council and the council before that, their main response to these shootings was silence. No one said anything. And if somebody did say something, it was to tee off on the victim's family and pull stunts like back out of settlement agreements and whatnot. So I think we are at a crossroads. I am optimistic and hopeful that with new leadership like Councilwoman Houston and Mayor Adler, we will hear more from our leaders. But I will tell you, if the silence from elected leaders on police shootings continues, things will not get better.